And do you have a presentation slide?
Yeah, I do have a small, quick presentation.
Okay, can you enable screen share?
So my name is Will Williams. I'm with the New Mexico Black Leadership Council, a 501c3 here in the International District, and we're led by our most gracious leader, Catherine McGill. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. I grew up in the International District in the 80s and 90s, and doing this work is very, it's close to my heart, so I'm definitely committed to this work. I've seen the community go from a good community in the 80s to where it was at in the 90s and to its current state now, and it's disheartening. There's a lot of work, and there's a lot of people that are committed to doing the work, so that's one of the good things that I'm happy about. Go into a little bit of the brief history of how the Uplift Initiative got started. Let me see here. Back in 2014, Catherine McGill's organization, the New Mexico Black History Organizing Committee, conducted the African American Community Economic Transformational Study. Over 3 months, the study collected and analyzed data that served from service providers and opinion leaders within the African American community in central New Mexico. The analysis of the data led to the following recommendations: to create a hub organization. The New Mexico Black Leadership will function as that central hub for organizations in central New Mexico. In our community, Leadership and Development Institute, established Leadership Development Institute for our community. And build a communication network infrastructure, establishing communication networks that would define how our community would communicate, connect with members, allies, target institutions, broader communities. For example, we have a weekly meeting or collaborative that we have with the Southeast Area Command and the Violence Intervention Program. And so we bounce ideas off of each other and discuss issues that are going on in the community to try to figure out how we can streamline solutions for those issues. So looking at the bigger picture, New Mexico Black Leadership Council focuses on 5 areas of impact with the Uplift Initiative. With the New Mexico Black Leadership Council, we focus on these 5 areas of impact: advocacy, civic engagement, health, mental health, physical and financial, leadership, workforce development, cultural vibrancy, positive youth development. These are the 5 primary areas of focus. And from that, the Uplift Initiative began once the pandemic and the shutdown of everything started happening in 2020. So the Uplift Initiative focuses on the long-term community well-being and resiliency. Our goal is to create a real-time resiliency portal to provide information online to individuals who need temporary assistance, an easy one-stop portal. Build a volunteer-led organization's messaging capacity. So we work with we have a part of our initiative is called the Chisholm Table, and we're able to give micro grants to different organizations in the community to kind of help us with some of the groundwork as far as messaging and getting our messaging out to the people that we need to get it to. And then one of the parts that have a big part in is the creating a street team outreach cohort. And so our main mission is, because of the shutdown and due to the COVID pandemic, many of the most vulnerable communities were affected by the shutdown. And so we want to provide some of the services that were affected because of the COVID pandemic, in our community, there's already many underlying conditions that that affect the unemployment rate, the community safety, the overall well-being of the individuals in our community. So our main focus with the Uplift Initiative is to connect community members with mental health resources, job training, vaccine confidence information, broadband relief, voter registration, and we're also doing criminal record expungement for low-level nonviolent crimes. Due to the shutdown, there's a lot of more issues that have kind of compounded the already underlying issues that we have in our community. So we want to get out in the community and kind of connect with community members, discuss certain issues, and me being part of the street team, that's what I've been working on for the past couple of months. I've been multitasking, working on a GIS map for multi-family units in the International District. We're the most diversified community in New Mexico, and it's one of the highest condensed areas in New Mexico for multi-family units. And we have a lot of high crime in our area as well. One of the collaborations that we've done was we've gone out with VIP and ACS to some of their community walk events. One of the community walk events back in June, or was it May? May have been May. Yeah, Trumbull Park area. There was a particular unit that was brought to the attention of the community health workers that were out in the community, and it entailed a mass eviction. So we kind of got involved, and we wanted to go out and get some information from these particular community members. And what we ended up discovering, being that we're working on rental assistance, this is part of housing stability. And so we started looking at the conditions of some of these properties, and this particular property was one of the higher crime properties in the area. That was the main focus of VIP and ACS going out to doing this community walk. 7900 Bell, it was one of the highest, it had the highest reported gunshots in the city in a 1 month period. So they were targeted for intervention. And as I continued my canvassing of the community, going out and doing my Uplift Initiative, connecting community members with, trying to connect community members with resources, I was able to observe the health of the community. And from our previous meetings with Commander Langwood, Lieutenant Bartlett, VIP and ACS, there's only a small percentage of the community that's actually driving the crime up in the area. And so over the past 2 months, I was able to observe certain areas of the community that's driving the crime, certain properties that are all basically owned by one individual. And these properties are driving the crime up. I'll give a brief example of 7900 Bell being one of the locations for one of the shootings that involved Keon Kelly, the individual that had the standoff on San Joaquin Street. And so there was a shooting there. He was a suspect of that shooting, as well as another shooting over on 436 Grove. And these particular properties are right next to the 7900 Bell is right next to the Trumbull Park Child Youth Development Center, and then the other 636, the properties on Grove Street are also close to Bill Chacon Park. So During my canvassing, I was able to observe individuals going from property to property, then over to the park, consuming drugs, and then filtering back out hours later into the community. And so these are things that I was just able to kind of gauge the health of the community. But when you have one individual property owner whose properties are kind of spread out across our neighborhood that are driving the crime rate up, and not his properties individually alone, there's other properties, but his properties are the bigger units that are kind of driving that crime up, then it has to be addressed. And so we created a case study initially for 7900 Bell. We were able to contact the housing authority, and we were able to get the case study over to them. They were able to address certain issues, but however, there's certain holes in the system that just seem the process isn't working fast enough. And so from our initial visit at 7900 Bell to a month or two later having another shooting with Keon Kelly involved, and then a standoff later on with the same individual, kind of speaks to some of the things I think Commander Langwood wants to be addressed. You know, what are some of the holes that can be plugged? And we had a debrief with the APD about the San Joaquin situation. And from that discussion that we had, I'll have one recommendation for Commander Langwood. There was a particular point in time where the suspect could have been apprehended. He went outside and he laid on his back trying to get his air, and then he eventually went back into the house before the fire had started. And there was an opportunity where he could have been apprehended, but because there's certain rules of engagement, I'm not sure if these were from the consent, I don't want to say the consent decree, the federal agreement that they had. So these are certain things that can be addressed. So that is one recommendation that I have, that they need to revisit the rules of engagement for these certain situations. And then also there's no policy for engagement when there is a youth involved. There was, from the press conference, they did show that there was concern on the police department's behalf, because they looked at the individual and they questioned if he was a hostage. So that was one policy, but then there's no other policy as far as prioritizing the actions. So that's one recommendation that I'm not sure how that would work, but I want to bring that up, and I think we probably discussed it also at our debriefing. But so this is some of the work that we do at New Mexico Black Leadership Council with the Uplift Initiative. All of this stems from going out in the community and doing work related to rental assistance and housing equity. And you get to gauge the health of the community when you're out there. You get to talk to people, and you get to see firsthand how they're affected by the crime in the area. You get some feedback from the community members as far as what their concerns are, and then also we can bring that to the table and discuss it with Commander Langwood, Lieutenant Bartlett, and the APD command. So I'm thankful that we have our partnership with the Southeast Area Command, VIP, and ACS. It gives us that opportunity to bring this type of information. So I'm currently working on what I have on the screen is the second part of the case study. The first part of the case study was specifically of 7900 Bell. The second part of the case study is going to have all of the properties from this same property owner of 7900 Bell. We're going to add the crime statistics and so on and so forth. And then how can we address that and put it, at least try to curb some of the crime in our community by dealing with these particular properties. And this is just, it's part of community health. I mean, this affects the community. You have kids that can't go to Phil Chacon Park. You have kids that can't go to Trumbull Park. So these are things that you know, Commander Langwick brought up, you know, homeless. Mike brought up encampments and homeless. So these are that need to be brought up, but these are all, it's all a whole, and this all affects our community as a whole. So this is the work that I'm doing, and thank you for having me.
Can I say one thing to that? Get closer to the microphone. I want you to hear it from me that I think it's so awesome with the work that you guys do. And this, to me, is my take, is an example of a true partnership. Because it's not just me asking for something from you guys. I mean, it truly goes both ways. I mean, we had an incident where we had a young woman, a mother, running down the street. A child was involved. She was naked. She was having an episode. We had to respond to that. How did we respond to that? Was it the right way? Was it the wrong way? And to be able to hear from members of our community and to give us feedback on that was important, right? And then also we talk about, you know, you may have some neighborhoods where there are minorities. Are they being over-policed? You know, are we spending more time in these specific neighborhoods than other neighborhoods? And we have our justifications, whether it's data or what, but you go back to that community policing sense where it's like, hey, the community needs to step up too, you know, and fix these issues, right? Because I'll tell you right now, there are some issues that's happening that ends in crime that we need help with, you know. So having a partnership like the New Mexico Black Leadership Council, it's been great, you know. So kudos to you guys. We've had conversations, we had meetings with them where they're looking at our policies, giving us suggestions and ideas. We're providing education to them as far as why we use these particular pieces of equipment, right, for these particular incidents. And the last thing I'll say too is everything evolves. I don't know if evolves is the right word. So when I was a SWAT lieutenant, I was in charge of the SWAT team back in 2018. The policies that I had in place, think about how much has changed from 2018 to 2022. Best practices, policies, I mean, we work for you, the community. So as the community evolves, we need to evolve as well. And our policies need to reflect that too. So having a partner like you guys to help us draft those revisions, give us some ideas, it's been invaluable. So thank you.
Is the owner on 7900 Bell, is it a company or an individual person?
Yeah, they're a nonprofit.
Who is it? Can you
Yeah.
can you tell me who that is?
Yeah.
Because what I think the city can do on our end is, what I've been concerned with is which landlords are getting city funding. And what can we, I've already been talking to our legal policy team about how can we build some safeguards for slum landlords and things like that, crime rates and things like that in our contracts that say, if you don't keep the property up, you don't get this funding. If we see the excessive crime at your properties, you won't get refunded, basically. Because I feel like some of these properties we may be funding. And so I would like to look in our database and see if there's any of those contracts for this particular property, and then begin to see if we can advocate for that. Because right now, the problem with, I'm on the city's housing task force, and the problem we have in New Mexico is there's not an actual body that is in like oversight over landlords, because it's considered their private.
You don't even have to register.
Right, there's no registration, there's no, unless they get Section 8 or some kind of funding where they come and inspect before they allow someone to live there, then there's no oversight or authority over these landlords because it's considered legally private property. They can do whatever they want. So that's part of the issue. So the city's already talking about, legislation around or ordinances around rent caps and rent control, and that's a way heavier lift because the private owners don't want that, right? So I think this is another way that we can, in a roundabout way, hold them accountable. At very least, if you want city funding, we should hold them to a certain standard. So I would love to know who that is, so I can look into their contracts and see it, and then just straight up talk to the mayor and be like, yo, we're funding these people that are driving these. And we need to stop funding them.
Believe me, I was so ecstatic when I had heard, when Lieutenant Bartlett told me that you guys were deploying out to 7900 Bell. I was like,
Oh, yeah, we heard about that at our first block party.
That walked in one
yeah,
stop,
just here.
using the stock spotter data, that's where this is where we have to do it. But you guys are doing great work. I just wanted to tell you that Commander Langley is here with us today, not for us. You don't have to sweat that much anymore.
And also, you guys had your
Open house.
Open house, yeah, I missed it, I was sick, so,
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
There was a lot of, I don't know if you have a final head count, but that was.
yeah, there was a
packed.
lot of people, yeah, so it was good, it was good.
Mhm. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Thank you, Will.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.